Let's go ahead and call the meeting to order at 6:37. Appointment of the timekeeper. I'll be the timekeeper tonight. I'll try to keep everybody on track. I know we have a very busy schedule and a lot of things to discuss, so I'll try to keep it on track.
Say,
Uh,
Ron,
Yeah,
usually the chair is relieved of that duty, but if you want to tackle it, go ahead.
I'll tackle it tonight. Yeah, I give folks a break.
Okay, okay.
Usually somebody else's name is there, so I just saw my name there on the agenda. So
Sorry, I could tell you who is up next, but we can stick with you too.
what's that?
I could tell you who is next, or if you'd like to do it, we could stick with you.
Okay. Is there anybody for public appearance?
Doesn't look like it.
Nope, no one there. Okay, let's move on to item number 3, approval of the minutes. These are the draft minutes for August 9th, 2021. Do we have a motion to approve the minutes?
I'll make that motion.
Okay, is there a
Second.
second? Okay, second.
Second.
Up for discussion?
I just have one thing. Usually when we have somebody absent, it says members absent, and then after their name in parentheses, it says whether it's excused or unexcused rather than RCC members excused.
Yeah, I'll make sure that what I'm doing is consistent with past meetings. If I need to change it, I can do that.
Okay.
I thought this was how I've done it in the past, but this might be my format for the White Committee. I'm getting it mixed up.
Well, whatever.
But
That's all I had. Thanks.
let's just make sure it's consistent.
Okay. Any other discussion on the meeting minutes from August 9th? Okay, is there a motion to approve the minutes?
We did that. We just
Oh,
need to
that's
vote.
right. Yeah, approve the minutes. So all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay. Item number 4, agenda item, new business. Item 4A, sustainability plan. This is you, Phil. So you had originally 20 minutes to talk about this. I know it's a big conversation topic, so let's try to stay on schedule if we can. I know it's pretty hard.
Just a second. I'm skipping through the slides right now.
Okay.
Trying to figure out if I forgot to include this in the packet. It looks like I may have. Yeah, so I'll just pull these slides up real quick in a different format. Looks like these just didn't make it into the packet. Sorry about that. All right, so make sure I'm keeping up with what our timing is. All right, 20 minutes here. So this is something that we've talked about before. We just kind of wanted to revisit the topic and maybe go a little bit more in depth on this, especially because we've got some budget in some funding in our proposed budget for 2022 to really get this off the ground for the first time. So there's kind of a mishmash here of some information that was presented to Committee of the Whole when the RCC presented to them in early 2020, and also a little bit of the information that I shared with the RCC this January, and then a little additional data. Just a little bit of background context here, and sorry, let me make sure that we're getting as full screen as we can. The closest thing that we have to a directive from Council to pursue a sustainability plan is this from the 2019 Clean Energy Resolution that Council directed the city, the staff, to develop an energy and water plan that includes resiliency, sustainability. So this is something that definitely gives us a target to pursue something. It's a little vague in terms of the wording, but that's I actually kind of like that, because it means that kind of gives us the opportunity to kind of look and see what we feel is the most urgent issue to address in a plan and push that direction. In terms of beyond that, reasons to pursue a sustainability plan, this is something that we've talked about before, that it would enhance our competitiveness and sustainability grants, and even more importantly, I think, provide a roadmap for meeting sustainability commitments. This is something that I just shared with all of you in an email today, just kind of a background of some of our sustainability commitments from the past. The first one was in 2008. Mayor Clotter signed the city of Fitchburg onto the U.S. Mayor's Climate Protection Agreement. 2009, we signed on to Governor Doyle's Energy Independent Communities pledge. We conducted a greenhouse gas study in 2011, 2012 as kind of the first step towards meeting those. And then more recently in 2019, we passed the Clean Energy Resolution. So we do have a number, as well as, sorry, I'm missing, in 2010, we signed on to the Green Tier Legacy Communities charter run by the state DNR. So we have a number of commitments that as a city that we have signed on to, ranging from specifically energy things to energy and water to kind of more of a broad suite of sustainability topics. And so having a plan in place that kind of gives us a roadmap for how to meet those, I think would be very helpful, rather than just sort of playing it by ear and deciding, oh, today I've remembered this one thing we promised to do, I should see if we can make that happen. Some things that we certainly need to figure out early on in the process would be who would lead this process, if it's going to be an internal staff-led thing, if this is going to be, would it be primarily internal staff? Would it include community member volunteers? Would it include a third-party consultant? I don't think this is a particularly difficult question to answer. We would certainly model this after other plans that the city has conducted. But it's also an important thing to figure out is who's going to be most intimately involved in this, what the time commitment is from both that kind of planning panel as well as any staff that are involved, and then the value add. So there is some point at, sorry, I was going to go down a rabbit hole that's not particularly important, but just kind of figuring out what kind of time commitment this will be and what that means in terms of how aggressively we can push completion of this plan. And then how this process would complement and enhance the existing plans. So that kind of goes back to the roadmap for meeting commitments. We already have a number of plans in place, the bike and pedestrian plan, the Healthy Neighborhoods Initiative, agriculture plan, a comprehensive plan, parks and open space, tree diversity and preservation. There is a housing plan that I didn't include as a circle in here, and probably others that overlap with what a sustainability plan would entail. And so part of the initial process would be trying to figure out how much of this overlap we want to include and how much we want to kind of use the sustainability plan, the energy water plan, whatever we're going to call it, how much we want to use that to fill in gaps. There's likely to be a little bit of both of those, but it's something to be aware of. Anytime there's going to be overlap, we will want to make sure that either we're being consistent with existing plans, or that if we're diverging from those, that there's that we're clear about that and clear about why it is and which of those maybe supersedes the other. But that's certainly something that we'll have to think about as well, is what the overarching goal of this is going to be in the context of the other plans that we already have.
Hey, Bill, just a quick question.
Sure.
How much has been budgeted for developing the sustainability plan?
So far, technically nothing. At this point, the budget is something that we have proposed as a planning department. We have requested $25,000, I believe, from the 2022 operating budget. So now we're awaiting the mayor's proposed budget and what council votes on. But what's in the planning department's proposed budget is $25,000. And that is consistent with the comprehensive plan update that just went through in the past couple of years.
Seems like a small amount. Jacob, you want interested in hiring a third-party consultant?
Mm-hmm. It is as I said, it's consistent with the comprehensive plan, and that was something where we had outside help to pursue that, but then a lot of the work for the comprehensive plan was done internally by the staff. If $25,000 is all we have, certainly that means it's going to be leaning a little bit more on our staff to get this done. I think that's doable. It might change. It might change a little bit about the scope and kind of the depth that we can get into these, but if we get into early on in the process and decide, 25,000 just isn't going to cut it, there are avenues we can pursue for trying to find other funding.
Yeah, and just for a frame of reference, I think we were asking for, I believe it was $24,000, and Diane, you can correct me if that number is way off, but I want to say we asked for around that much when we last asked council for these funds back in the middle 2014, 2015, that time frame. And that was not approved, obviously, because we're still looking for a sustainability plan. So just wanted to give that as a frame of reference from the budgetary side of things.
Okay.
Yep, and we have a different mayor now. We have a different council now, so hopefully there won't be an issue getting this through, but that'll be something we certainly keep up with. This is just sort of a repeat of the previous slide, sort of looking at what are elements that are frequently included in a sustainability plan. Sorry, what do we already have in our plans that covers some of those things? So some of our existing plans cover some of these elements pretty extensively. Land use is covered to some degree with the comprehensive plan, the bike and pedestrian, the agriculture plan, and the Parks and Open Space Plan. Forget my own acronyms here. Some of the items maybe are covered a little bit less extensively. So the clean energy resolution. Now, this is not a plan per se. I included this just because it is the most maybe directly relevant item here, and the resolution that gave us the directive to create this plan. Energy is not really covered too extensively in any of the other plans. I think transportation and land use, you could argue that kind of our bike and pedestrian plan or comprehensive plan touch on energy, but not particularly deeply. Water and waste are two other items that I know Claudia put a lot of work into our stormwater plan recently. That's another one I didn't include in here. But there are definitely some areas that we had a little bit more of a gap. Energy efficiency and conservation is not really covered with our existing plans. Green building code certainly is not. So there are some gaps that we have and some significant overlaps, and this is a little bit less readable way of looking at the same thing. This is from last winter when I looked at some of the existing plans that we might look to as models for what we could do, just trying to get a sense of with some of these plans, what were the categories that they broke their plans out into, what were the most common ones, and just try to get an overview of that and see if that might help guide where we would look to take a sustainability plan. This is something that I have showed before though, so I don't want to take too much time on it.
Bill, before you
sure.
move on, can you give me an idea of what people include under waste in their plans?
So that is frequently, it's waste reduction, it's recycling. So it would be things like construction, demolition, waste disposals and recycling. It are kind of at a high level would be the type of thing that would be included in there. It would depend on whether you're looking at a plan that deals with municipal operations primarily, or if it's the larger community. If it's municipal operations, you might be able to get a little bit more granular into things like a purchasing policy that prioritizes, trying to buy products that use as little waste as possible. If you're pursuing a City of Fitchburg sustainability plan, that's something you have a lot less control over. And so maybe you look at broader initiatives and advocacy to the community.
Okay, thanks.
And then moving on to the next slide, again, this is something that I shared in January as well, just kind of a breakdown. I was trying to get a sense of how long these processes were, and they were anywhere from 1 year to 4 years or so to create these plans. Some of that depended on the staff that was available, some depended on whether it was the initial plan that was being created or if it was an update to an existing plan. And then just how extensive the plan was. Was it a little bit more of a kind of a guiding document, or was it a really detailed, comprehensive, quantitative plan? And then getting a sense of what the organizing and leadership bodies were that participated in these. And it, a lot of them, all of them, of course, included municipal staff. There were a fair number that also contracted with external consultants, but it was not, for what it's worth, all of these plans did not necessarily use external third-party consultants. So even if we feel like 25,000 isn't enough to get a third-party consultant to walk us through this entire process, that may be true, but other municipalities have also made this work without spending six figures on a third-party organization. So it's not having six figures to put into consultants does not preclude us from being able to pursue this. I think is something that is a very important takeaway from this. And just from looking at kind of a couple different sort of guiding documents on how a sustainability plan process would commence. I just sort of tried to give a high level overview of what some of the steps are that we would need to pursue to make this happen. So from at the beginning, creating a working group, figuring out what voices need to be included in that, assessing our current landscape. So we're looking at our existing plans, we're looking at what commitments the city has already made, where we already are in terms of achieving some of those goals that we've set. Looking at our needs in terms of how much funding do we have and how much, is there any additional that we feel we need? What's the time commitment? What are the roles that need to be involved in this? Looking at, and I've already touched on a couple of times, the broad scope categories. What are the boundaries of our system, and what the goals are that we have in mind for this plan? And then once we get into it, one thing we've spoken about the last couple of meetings is communications with the community, and beyond getting some, depending on whether we decide to have community voices in the working group, in terms of broader community outreach, I think once we get into developing the plan would typically be, from what I'm seeing, where we would put out surveys. We'd look to have kind of some task force groups with community members, getting feedback on the plan, collect data, setting our targets and metrics. Writing it, of course, is a big part of developing the plan. And then the RACI roles, that would be who's responsible for the carrying out of certain elements of the plan, who's accountable for those, who's simply informed of the process, and I'm blanking on what that stands for right now, but kind of a look at the different elements of responsibility within that matrix. And then the end of the plan is setting our timeline and tracking, and then looking at when we would report and when we would go back and refine and update the process. So those are the slides I have here. I don't know, this is sorry, go ahead, Ron.
Well, I'm just wondering who starts this process off. Is it city staff that leads this effort? How's this get started? I mean, if we've been given kind of the go-ahead for this, who takes that initiative to get it going?
So that will depend on a couple of things. If we are set on using a third-party consultant to kind of help steer this process, we can start, I could start looking to communicate with some potential consultants that could guide us, but they are going to cost money. And so until we have that budget approved by council, until the budget dollars are available to spend, it would be difficult to, at least until the budget is approved, it would be difficult to bring somebody on board and help begin this process. I can, there's I could certainly speak with Sonia, with Claudia, and with a couple other people about what the early steps are that we could undertake to begin this. I think we could probably start getting our ducks in a row, and I could start putting some work into that gap analysis, into looking at the existing plans, without having a consultant on board. But some of the initial steps will just be me speaking with other staff members who have led some of these planning processes in the last few years for the city, just so I get a sense of what their what their structure was like, and how much that I would follow, and how much I would maybe break out on a different path. But yeah, some of this does depend on whether we elect to bring in a consultant to guide the whole process, or if that $25,000 would be more for bringing in people at specific steps. Maybe we want to conduct a certain quantitative analysis of data within the community, and that's not something we have the capability to do on our own. That would be a place where that funding could come in handy, to find somebody who can help us with certain analyses and calculations. But the first initial step is going to be me speaking with other staff members.
Okay, so that would be an action item that you would take and do, and we'd have a follow-up discussion regarding what you found out.
Yeah. Yep.
Right.
What would be your ultimate target to get this sustainability plan finalized? Do we want to talk about
in terms of a timeline?
Yeah.
I hesitate to commit to a timeline right away, just because that will depend on our scope and how deep we want to go into it. If I set a timeline of the end of 22, that is likely going to, it means that I may get to some points where I say, it'd be really good to include this in the plan, to set some targets for it, to calculate where we are now. But it may be something that if we have a firm timeline, certain things could get left out. From what I'm seeing, looking at the other plans that I kind of looked at, that I surveyed to get a sense of what else is out there, I think 2 years is a pretty standard. There were some that were less than that, but it was either more of a high level kind of mission statement plan, or else it was an update of an existing one. I think that 2 years or so would be pretty reasonable from really kicking off the process to getting the plan completed and released.
Okay.
And certainly I would try to get it done as quickly as possible, but realistically speaking, I think that the end of 2023 for something that is more robust and detailed would be standard.
Could we discuss whether or not we think that this should be like a guiding document or a more detailed document? Because I think that will affect, certainly should affect the timeline. And also I'm wondering, I think 2 years is extremely reasonable, but maybe there are things that we could cherry pick and get done sooner and implement sooner. What are your thoughts on that?
Could you give an example of what you mean in terms of getting some things done sooner?
Well, if I could move around your slides, it would help, but I can't. So some things you said that we've already sort of tackled a little bit. And maybe those items could be addressed with a more formally in the plan sooner and implemented sooner. Or for example, let's take one that we've done nothing on, but formally nothing on, but let's take waste, for example. That seems to me, in my naive thinking, that would be pretty easy to tick off and implement a waste reduction. I mean, we've tried to do it with the community, and we've tried to do it somewhat with the city. So let's say that is easily done, but the whole plan isn't done. We could still implement parts of it, correct?
Yes, absolutely. And that is something that we're already doing in terms of having a clean energy resolution in place. We don't have an energy plan, but we have already started working on something that would be a pretty major component of that, creating a resolution that sets targets for us to achieve certain renewable energy goals. Like there are a lot of things the city has already done that once we build a sustainability plan, we may be able to say as part of this plan, hey, we're already 40% of the way to this, we're already 80% of the way to this. This is something that we think should be achieved, and we've already done it. And so that's absolutely going to be part of the plan. And it is, I think that's possibly part of why a plan has not been created prior to now, is because there's been more focus placed on kind of checking off those boxes. Now, I think that a plan is incredibly valuable in terms of letting us know what the boxes should be and how to prioritize between them. And so it's still valuable to do this. But I think there are a lot of things that we've already accomplished. As I was digging through, looking at prior commitments that we've made as a city, I found this memo that Christopher Canto, a previous specialist, wrote, and this is something that I hadn't run into already. It had to do with the 25 by 25 resolution from 2009, and 5 years later, he wrote he submitted a memo to the mayor, city administrator, and a couple other staff members about where we were on a number of these. Apologize, last time I opened this up, I guess I was somehow the file's not opening right, but there are a number of things in here where he kind of detailed, here are steps that we, as part of our 25 by 25 pledge, we committed to, and here's where we are. Here's our progress in tackling those. And let's see if this is just going to freeze my whole, there we go. So yeah, I do agree with you. I think that's a good point, that there are some things that that we've already accomplished and we will continue to before a plan is released.
Could you, that document that
Sure.
Christopher Canto sent, could you send that to us, please?
Yeah, I should be able to.
And also,
Yep.
what are your and everybody else's thoughts on whether this is a guiding document or a more detailed document? Because like I said, that will affect how long it takes to get this done.
I guess my thoughts that I think it would be cool to have, I mean, I think that it has to have a big picture, but I would love this plan to be something that it's a guide for how to take us to the next level, because we do things well. So it's about, laying all that out, laying out what we do well, and then how do we take it to the next level? So I mean, I would hope it'd have a little bit of both, but lean on the side of detail if possible. But that obviously more to do with budget than.
I mean, we already have a lot of those existing plans in place that would be integrated into this document. So, I mean, I agree with Gabrielle, more from a guiding into the detailed part of it, but I just think it's we can capitalize on what we've already done, as a city, and integrate that stuff.
And that's something that could help to make it a little bit faster too. The guiding document, I think, is maybe the most important, because it's something we don't have right now, is that prioritization, and just a high level guiding document may give us that. If we already have detail built out in other plans for achieving certain goals, and we like how those plans did it, we're kind of just copying and pasting.
Yeah.
If the comprehensive plan already set out a framework for how we're going to achieve a certain type of land use that we feel is consistent with what a sustainability plan would dictate, then all we do is we either pull in language from the comprehensive plan directly, or we simply say in the plan, look to these pages of the comp plan. And that's how we want to achieve this. So that's certainly a place where we could get some efficiencies in terms of time spent on this. There's a lot of original research that's already been done.
Yeah.
Bill, do you know when you did that research on the other municipalities, do you know what their budgets were?
I didn't look into that.
I don't think you spent time doing it. I was just curious if
I don't. I don't recall it being spelled out in any of the documents. I absolutely would be able to reach out to a couple of the staff members with some of those municipalities and find out.
Well, you did have page numbers up there, so I assume the thicker ones would be cost a lot more.
Probably. Well, some of them also. I mean, one of the examples was. I think, one of the examples was Fort Collins, Colorado. They have a much larger staff.
Yeah.
City of Madison has a much larger staff, and so they are able to gain some efficiencies, some scaling there, where if they have 10% of their staff spend 10 hours on this, that's a much bigger lift than us having 10% of our staff.
Yeah.
So that's certainly, I think the bigger the city is, the less they spend as a proportion of their total city budget for something like this, for kind of the same work.
Well, I know in the one for Nashville, I used to work for CDM, and I know that probably was an expensive document. So
We can, as Chris pointed out, gosh, was that like 5 or 6 years ago, Chris, that we budgeted 25,000, and that was all, that was not staff time, that was all to bring somebody in from the extension or somewhere else and guide us through this and conduct the community meetings. But at the last meeting, Joshua mentioned maybe using somebody from the university or tapping into, and maybe that's a way to save us some money.
That's a possibility. I did look into that a little bit more. The one example that was given was the city of Monona did the university year in its first year. They got, I don't remember exactly everything that was done. I think there were 3 different areas that the university works with them on. One was like a housing and equity study, and there was an economic study. So university, the UW didn't create a sustainability plan for them because what we'd essentially be doing is partnering with graduate students as they pursue work for certain courses. So there's a lot of expertise and good knowledge we could get from these students. There's a lot of good work they could put in. I don't think it would be able to replicate necessarily what maybe a sustainability plan consultant would do. So they're probably not one-to-one replacements, but university would be something to look into for maybe completing certain components of the plan.
Yeah, I want to say that Professor Jim, who now lives in Fitchburg, he has a senior design class, and it's about, I think it's sustainable systems. I gave a presentation at it about some of the work that we've done out in Fitchburg and some of the work that I've done over in Africa. But I think he was working on something for the I believe for the city of Rhinelander in Wisconsin, where his students were working on, I think, a sustainability plan for them, and really focused in on, kind of, but I do agree with you, Phil, that we're probably looking, if you have engineering students, you're going to focus on more of an engineering component to it. So, it's going to be hard to get like a cross section of UW that can kind of hit all the areas that need to be hit with a plan like this. So I agree with you that, but I do think it is, like Diane mentioned, a potential piece to the puzzle. RCC had a big role with the mayor's climate protection agreement. Like, we researched all those, we had members research those, and then they did reporting on it, and then they did following up. Not to say that that would happen with this one, but figuring out what the RCC's role with this would be. We definitely want to see it happen, and we know a lot about sustainability in the city. So I agree with Gabriella and Ron about just kind of wanting to have kind of the high level like guidance, and like, these are the systems we want people to have this discussion as part of their decisions that they're making. But I also agree with some of the details, like, well, what are some of the details to make a decision on making a police car purchase, or whatever it might be, to kind of help guide them through that process a little bit as well. So I think that's where the details come in. So I think it seems like that seems like pretty common thought across the RCC commission.
Yep. Yeah, I think the more I think about it, the more I agree that if there aren't metrics to hit, and essentially if there's not some way in the plan that tells us how do we know if we've succeeded, then the plan's a little bit toothless, a little bit less meaningful. We're a bit over time here, so I don't want to linger on this too much longer. I will say I haven't gotten around to spending much time reading this yet because my work days have been kind of busy, but maybe it's just going to be my nightstand book now. I did get this a little bit ago, so I'm hoping this will come in handy as well. Somebody's actually literally written a guide on how to do this. So if I can spend a little bit of time on this, I've got some worksheets also that Marcia Willard, one of the authors, that she created as kind of a companion to this guide. So I wouldn't, I know there are people who have spent decades doing sustainability planning. I wouldn't suggest that I can do this as well as them, but with a guide like that, I'm hopeful that regardless of what external assistance we get, that we can put something really solid together.
Okay.
Could we, I know we need to move on to another
Mhm.
topic, but I don't feel like we brought this, it's been a good discussion, but I'd like to sort of have an idea of this is what, okay, to start the sustainability plan, this is what we're going to do. And just assume that regardless of whether we get the money through the budget or not, this is step one. Like Phil, I think you said that you need to talk to other city members who are involved in the other plans. Would it be possible to just put like step one, step two, or these things can be done in advance of knowing whether the money's coming in?
Mm-hmm. I mean, I know what I can do in advance, regardless of the money issue. I can speak with staff and speak with neighboring municipalities that have done this, and I can look to put together kind of my own sort of priority list and what to attack in what order. The one thing that I know I could, I don't want to. I think before I speak with people, it's a little bit tough to say what I think needs to be done first and second, but I know that surveying the other plans around the city is something that I haven't done yet. And that's something that would provide a lot of value to get that sort of current landscape. So that is, I'm confident that regardless of the outcome of any discussions I have, that's going to be something that I need to do early on. So that's on my to-do list
Yeah, I think this plan is very important to the city. So I think I would like to continue this discussion in November, because you won't be in October, right?
Correct. I won't be at the meeting.
I'd like to make sure we keep this on our agenda to discuss, so we can keep it moving.
Yeah,
I just have one more quick question. So I'm assuming since Sonia put that in her budget, she's comfortable giving you the time to work on it?
Yep. Yeah, that's that's certainly an important thing, and I mentioned it in the slides there, but there are definitely, there's always competing priorities.
Yeah.
If there were 3 of me, I probably wouldn't get everything done that I'd like to. And so there's always going to be some shuffling of priorities, and I'll have to speak with Sonia, with some other staff, with the other committee that I report to, the bike committee, and just kind of figure out, I'm going to be spending more time on this. So what does that mean? Is maybe going to get a little bit less attention in the coming months. And maybe it means I do green e-news a little bit less frequently. Maybe I make them 2 or 3 pages instead of 7 or 8. But yeah, there'll be things I'll be looking at to see where I can get some efficiencies in my schedule and carve out a lot of time for this.
One other thing, I just, while it's on my mind, you're doing a great job on those green emails. I want to thank you
Thanks.
for that.
Well, they might be a little less detailed in the coming months. We'll see.
That's all right. That's all right. Understandable.
The last couple, I've been able to get some content written from others too, or just kind of copy and paste stuff from our website as well. So that's also useful. It's not trying to write all 7 pages myself.
Okay, so let's move on to the next item on the agenda. Which is again, Phil, the energy reporting, item 4B. And since we only have maybe 15 or 20 minutes to kind of keep us on schedule, maybe you can give us a high elevation review of what you provided. I mean, I read through that document. It's pretty intensive with all the tables and figures and everything.
Yeah. Sorry, let me just share this application instead of the whole screen. Yeah, so I don't want to go through this entire document. This is something that we have received in previous years from Craig Weiss with Innovative Business Engineering. The plan right now is for this 2020 report to be the last one that we contract out to a third party. It is so similar to what I did in my previous role, working with Focus on Energy and other energy efficiency, that I feel pretty confident that I can put this together on my own for 2021 energy and going forward. Now, of course, that comes with the caveat that this is it's very doable for me. It's also not an insignificant lift. And so, working on getting this done for 2021 means, maybe half the time that I might want to spend on a sustainability plan. There's kind of some juggling with those two things. The sustainability plan and this energy plan are, essentially from today going forward, the two highest priorities that I've got that I want to make sure I get completed. But yeah, this is something that I'm really interested in taking this output that Craig's given us the last several years. There's a lot of great information in here. Everything from just the kind of the raw numbers and get a sense of what energy usage is like in Fitchburg, both this last year and over a span of time, what we've been spending on this energy, but also renewable energy production. And kind of some narrative describing things like he's done some weather adjustments to give us a sense of, is there a reason that in 1 year energy spiked without necessarily any other reason for that? Doing those kinds of weather adjustments helps us understand that. But this is all something that basically I want. Sorry, go ahead.
Can you go to the executive summary?
Sure.
Yeah. Yeah, that table there. How's the decision in terms of color coding? What's good and what's bad?
It's just kind of a standard. Green is something you want and red is something you don't. So there is a description down here at the bottom in the well, I can't think of the caption to the image. That red is high, green is best here. I'm not exactly sure how Craig broke that down. If it's like there are a number of, I think there's 8 different colors, so I don't know if he broke it down into 8s, or if there's something else here. But it's just kind of a rough sense of where did these buildings have lower energy usage relative to their average over the years, and where did they have higher?
Okay. I was just kind of curious on 2020, the community center, why that went up so high compared to all the previous year, particularly in the year of COVID. I thought the community center was shut down.
Right. Yeah, and that's the kind of thing that we see that we want to look into it. I want to meet with Kevin, our facilities manager, and try to figure that out. Most every building was quite a bit below their yearly average, just due to lower occupancy. So I know the electricity was lower in the community center. So if overall BTU per square foot is higher, then that maybe means a lot of natural gas usage. But that's something that I would need to meet with Kevin to talk through.
That was one of my questions also. Who, when you do this report, who follows up and investigates things like what happened with the community center, what's going on there? Is that your responsibility, or would that be Kevin's, or how does that work?
Typically, that if there is, it would. I'm not sure how it's gone in years past before I arrived. When I see things that are out of the norm, I will reach out to Kevin and we'll communicate about it. It's something that it's easier for him to look into. He understands much more intimately all of the equipment that's powering these buildings, that's heating and cooling these buildings. So if I see something that sticks out, I'll ask Kevin about it, and he is able to give me that context. Anytime that he's not, we kind of both do some research together.
The other reason I would have expected it to be lower is I think several of the retro commissioning items that were done happened at the community center to make things more energy efficient. So I was really surprised to see where this is going.
Yeah, and one thing to keep in mind is that this is all weather adjusted BTU as well. So that's, I mean, it means that we're not necessarily seeing the raw numbers, but we're seeing the raw numbers adjusted for heating and cooling degree days. That doesn't necessarily make it better. It definitely, we're using more BTUs per heating or cooling degree day per gross square foot there. Still merits looking into, but these are not the raw numbers of usage.
Yeah, community centers was used for voting, right?
Community.
Is that where we vote?
think
voted in?
I
I
think
thought it was
was.
city. Was it community
It's-
center? Okay.
No, actually, I think it was City Hall. I think,
I thought city
No,
hall, but
District
I'm
4 votes in the community center.
It was in the community center?
Yep, District 4 always votes there.
And we had, I don't know how many elections last year, so. And then I don't know where the recount went, so they spent their time there.
yeah, this would be a topic that I'll talk about with Kevin, and we're already far enough into 2021 that I've got some pretty good data on all the buildings for this year as well, and so I'm keeping an eye on these and looking for a time to meet with Kevin and talk about that.
On the next table, I was just kind of curious in terms of dollars. How much did the city pay for total electrical costs versus the amount of what we paid out to MG&E? What's the difference there? I mean, we were charged,
So
X
you're looking
amount
at
for this.
the total sales to MG&E.
Yeah. So was it
Versus-
508? Well, let's see, for 2012.
Could you zoom in, Phil? I'm sorry.
Yep, absolutely.
So, thank you.
So we have, I mean, we're purchasing energy from both MG&E and Alliant.
Okay.
I'm looking for a second sales. So you're looking at totals.
Well, I mean, most of our solar operations came online in 2018. Is that correct?
Correct.
You can see the big difference there in total sales to MGE, which I think is important.
Right. And so then a lot of our solar generation is self-generated on site and not purchased from.
Okay.
Or sorry, this is sales back to MG&E. So this is excess renewable energy. Yeah.
I mean, if I was just, the average citizen, how much money are we saving by doing this? By having these clean energy in place?
Yep. And I don't recall if that one is, I'm not sure if the dollar value of the renewables is in here. I know that is something that I'm tracking separately in a spreadsheet that's not currently being reported on. But yeah, I think one of the things I'm most interested in doing with creating this report internally is these tables are really great for me to look at and possibly for Kevin to look at. I have a lot of experience and a lot of time spent looking at energy tables with a lot of numbers and a lot of columns. This spring, the projects that I did this spring with those UW, the grad interns, was having them work on, and I don't remember if I've shared this already. I don't think so. But working with that group of 3 on kind of creating template layouts for this project I'm looking to do is trying to create an internal report. One thing I'm really interested in doing is making things that are a little bit more digestible, that are a little bit easier to read right from the outset, that have clear descriptions of what it is we're looking at. So these are all figures that those students put together as part of their work and presented to us in May. So I've got a lot of good tables and templates and calculations in Excel to work with once I'm ready to start doing the 2021 reporting. So that is absolutely one of the goals, is try to figure out a way to have a balance between tables that are as thorough as possible, while also having some figures and tables that pop out and really make it clear the high level metrics that we want to see. Things like exactly what you're talking about. What's the value of the solar we've produced? What's our, how are we doing in terms of paying back our initial investment in those panels? That's a really important thing for a lot of residents.
So how do we get this information out to the residents? Is it on our website or?
There is no process right now for that.
I think an article in the Star would be great to publicize this.
Mhm.
I agree, Diane. I think that would be great. We've spent all this money, converting to clean energy, and here's the
Mhm.
benefit to us.
Yeah, I would love to do an article in the Star. I think the thing that is of greatest interest to me, just because I've seen it somewhere else, the city of Monona creates a sustainability dashboard every year, and I would love to have, even if it doesn't include the full detailed report, have a high level energy dashboard for putting on the city's website every year, connecting it to the Green Fitchburg page and a couple other sites, just to make sure that that info is readily accessible. I think an article in the Star would be great.
Yeah.
It'll be tough to put as much information in there as I could put into a series of 5 or 6 graphs. So that's I would like that to be my primary means of getting this information out there. And there is the process that I inherited when I took over this role is we get this super thorough report. It gets shared with I believe it's been shared with the RCC most every year, and also with the mayor, the city administrator, and a couple of department heads. And that's about it as far as I'm aware. So I definitely want to expand that and make it a little bit more public facing in terms of the high level metrics.
Can you also share with us the report that the students who are the interns that you were working with, the one you just gave us a glimpse of?
Yeah, I can definitely share some things from that. Yeah, for sure. I don't recall if I don't think I invited any of you to that presentation, did I?
No.
I know I
don't
invited some.
see anything, no.
Okay, I think I may have just invited some department heads to that. So yeah, that's something I can get you some of that.
Okay.
Yeah. Sorry, just trying to think if there's any reason that I wouldn't be able to share any of it, but I think that should be fine.
Okay. Thanks, Phil.
Mhm.
All right. We can move on to item 4C, review of the sustainability specialist role, and back to Phil again.
All right. So this one is a little bit more of a open forum. I know this is one that a couple of commissioners had asked about including in the agenda for this month's meeting, and I can talk a little bit about where I'm spending my time. I'm not sure if you just kind of want to hear an overview of that, or if you're looking to have any more of a specific discussion. We also kind of covered a little bit at the end of the sustainability plan agenda topic. But just as kind of a really high level, I think you're all aware about 3 years ago, the sustainability specialist role was moved from public works over to planning. It doesn't on its face change a lot in terms of the role, but it does mean that I'm interfacing with, on a regular basis, maybe not interfacing with the public works side as much and the planning side a little bit more. I'm reporting to both the RCC and Bike Committee, and so handling the city energy use, the renewables production. I've spent a lot of time in the last few months dealing with little glitch alerts I get for the solar panels and trying to make sure we track those down and get them resolved as quickly as possible. But tracking all that renewable energy production and how we're doing towards our clean energy resolution metrics, working with the public works, especially Andrew, the transportation engineer, on bike infrastructure and trying to get us from a silver bike friendly community to a gold one. Doing a lot of green communications, primarily with the green e-newsletter, but also a lot of networking and interfacing with colleagues, with peers from other municipalities or from the DNR. So I've been with the Green Tier Legacy communities, attending those meetings and communicating with the DNR on that. I've also been on the work group that is updating the Green Tier Legacy Communities annual report, which is the next agenda item after this one, so I won't dive into that yet. But yeah, it's all of those things, and then just kind of sustainability, as you all are aware, is a really broad topic. So it can kind of cover just about anything. It sort of depends on what are the needs of the city right now, what are the communications I'm getting from residents. But I've kind of been jumping all over the place with that. My ideal role would be would be not having to do any of the day-to-day work, because every, in a perfect world, every person in their job would understand sustainability and know how to implement it. And maybe I would just kind of be there behind the scenes helping to guide the strategy. That's not the way it works. But that's the dream, is getting to a point where, I'm not even needed to do things like talk with fleet managers about what vehicles to pursue, because that's already taken care of. All I'm doing is in the background kind of helping to write the plan that sort of sets the priorities.
Mhm.
I like your goal, Phil,
Yeah.
but you're right. You're not there
My-
yet. Are
I
you?
keep finding myself in roles, and this was the case with energy efficiency. It's the case with sustainability, where if I did my job perfectly, I would work myself out of a job. That's my ultimate goal in life,
I think
is
we
to
can
not be
keep you
needed.
busy. But
We
do you
don't
do
want
any?
so far.
Are you doing anything with the healthy neighborhoods now?
For the most part, that is Wade leading that, and he's working with our neighborhood navigators in the healthy neighborhoods.
Okay.
I have been working with Wade on trying to procure some funding for the bike playground that we're looking to include at the neighborhood hub over at Traceway Drive. But I have not gotten as involved yet in the Healthy Neighborhoods Initiative, no.
Well, you already have a full plate, so you really don't need any more on it.
Yeah, we don't want you to burn out. So save
How
some
many-
energy.
There's a lot of hours in a week.
Yeah.
Not enough.
Yeah.
I second that.
Okay, any other discussion on item 4C? If not, we can move on to Phil again on item 4D, Green Tier Legacy Community Reports.
All right. So I kind of teased this one already. I'll do a little bit of a screen share. I don't know that we'll need to keep this up for very long, but oh, looks like I meant to share the one that didn't have all the notes. That just adds a lot of unnecessary cluttering here. But this is
That's the one we got.
Yep, this is the one you got. So for some background context, especially for anybody who's new to the RCC in the last year or so, as part of the Green Tier Legacy Communities Charter, every year, each of the member communities submits a report to the DNR, both a narrative report and then a quantitative scorecard. What I can do here also is I'll pull up as I'm talking the scorecard that we submitted last year. Because I don't believe I included that in the packet, did I?
Well, there were some scorecards.
Oh, I did. Okay, great. So what we've done, and you can see for the last number of years, this only goes to, I don't know why it chopped off the last couple of columns, but we're just kind of tracking from year to year on a scale of 1 to whatever here. How are we doing on this specific item? And then we've used the narrative report broken down into these sections to add some additional context, to maybe go into some further description on some things that either weren't included in the scorecard or we just felt merited additional detail. In the past couple of years, I think the DNR has increasingly gotten word from some member communities that they don't feel the scorecard as it exists is particularly reflective of the things that they're working on to pursue sustainability. There are a lot of rather specific narrow categories, and then some other areas that they thought were just missed entirely. There were concerns about the scoring here. If is a League of American Bicyclists certification really 10 times more important than having standards for bike parking? Is it 3 times more important than funding a Safe Routes to Schools program? So some of these relative numbers were also questioned as well. So I am on a work group right now that is creating a new scorecard for 2021. Or I mean, the idea is to have it for 2020 data, but it's pushing into this year a bit farther than we had initially anticipated. So typically what I would do is I would send in the scorecard and this narrative report to the DNR by the end of March or the end of April. This year, I'm nearly finished with the narrative report right now. I was kind of hoping to wait on it until the new scorecard was complete, which I think I also included. Yeah, so this is why this packet's so long, is We've also got kind of the latest draft version of the new scorecard as well. But I kind of wanted to wait until this was done and I was able to complete the scorecard to build the narrative. And I just kind of got to a point where I said, I can't wait on the narrative anymore. I need to at least get that finished. But this is a much more detailed version of the process than I think I would usually share. It would typically be just the scorecard and the narrative. I'm hoping that this one, right now it's a lot of pages just because there is quite a bit of additional detail in some of these areas in terms of giving instructions on how to complete them. I'm hoping there's a more digestible version that I'll be able to share with you in future years. But essentially the way the new scorecard is broken down, instead of just having these categories and each one's got scores for different specific areas, we tried to create a scorecard that is a little bit more like the organization, the breakdown you would see in existing quantitative reporting methods. So things like a LEED certification, instead of just having 80 rows that say, did you do this? Here's some points. Did you do this? Here's some points. What we tried to do was instead, within each one of the sustainability issues, create a series of metrics that we thought are actually the key means that we have to measure progress in a certain area. So for energy and emissions reduction, renewable energy usage, community for the local government, overall electricity and gas usage in the community, electricity and gas usage for the government, and energy usage intensity. So these are metrics that we can actually put a number to. We could compare ourselves against other similar communities. This gives us a benchmarking ability, having these metrics. And then we took all of those other actions we might have included in the previous scorecard, and we put them here into supporting actions. So these don't necessarily get scored themselves. If we've done a greenhouse gas inventory, great. That's something that supports metric number 6 here, which is understanding and improving our greenhouse gas emissions intensity. But we're not getting points for this per se. We're getting points for making progress on the metric. So we tried to break that down a little bit more clearly so that the metrics are the things that we're reporting quantitatively, and all the supporting actions are giving us ideas about ways we could get there. Now, this results in a scorecard that, as you can see, is something like, well, here, 50 pages, quite a bit longer than what we've had in the past. But we're hoping that it will be something that's easier for every community to kind of complete wherever they are, whether they're a small or a large municipality. There are actions in here that are approachable for every community, and a lot of the metrics are things that each municipality is already tracking. Those are the ones that typically we would have marked here as whether it's a core metric or not. And so you can see in the column.
Phil, how would you determine if you're want to look at a yearly basis, year to year, how you're doing? The scorecard gave you numbers up there and scores, but how?
Right. So this one we might, right here, local government renewable energy. What's the percentage of your government's overall electricity consumption from renewable? So in this one, from 21 to 2 to 3, we're looking for growth. Is the way that we would measure that progress. Now, the biggest difficulty is going to be transitioning from these scorecards to the new ones, and that's we'll have to see if there's a good way to do that, or if we're just kind of starting a new system and we're all starting over from zero. But the metrics should give us a way to measure that growth from year to year, and so that is the hope there.
Okay.
That if it's not measurable, then we didn't include it as a metric.
Yeah. It seemed like the previous scoring was more subjective, and then this was a lot better because it relies more on facts and data.
That was a very common concern about the previous scorecard and reason for why we're building this new one the way we did. And so this is one where I've spent quite a bit of my time this year is working with. There's a work group of 5 or 6 of us, different municipal representatives, and then a couple people from the DNR trying to put this together. And I took the lead on the solid waste section. Got a lot of help from Claudia on that because she knows that area far better than I do. But yeah, this is the big green tier project for this year is getting this scorecard just completely reformatted. And hopefully the hope is that they're going to create a web portal where we'll be able to enter our scores. And so we don't have to download documents necessarily and re-upload and email them, but we can just fill out a form and it's all tracked online.
Yeah.
Phil, a comment on your narrative.
Yes.
I think the idling reduction belongs under emissions reduction because that was the whole point of the idling reduction campaign.
Where did I put it? Did I put it under transportation? Oh, I
yes.
did. Yes, good catch. Thanks.
And I also think, I mean, RCC spent quite a bit of time on this when we started the idling reduction campaign, and there's supposed to be a policy within the city for idling reduction. So in addition to the voluntary in the businesses, there should also be somewhere in the employee handbook something about it.
And there is. Yep. I can call that out as well.
Thank you.
Thanks. There are definitely a lot of things in here that I sort of carried over from previous reports, and I'm trying to go through all this in detail and update them, but you just caught one that I missed.
Thanks.
I think, Phil, I think it's on the next page. There was some, no, not that one. Keep going. That one there.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it wasn't that one. It was something that the date should have been 2021, not 2020.
Oh, there were two places.
Yeah. Maybe it's on not that page.
Yeah, I saw that also. I didn't know where this stood. I didn't know.
Oh, here.
Oh yeah, the fall of 2020. Yeah.
Yeah.
2020.
Yeah, I'll make sure.
Yeah.
Now this is one because I included this version with the comments. I had actually saved a different version that didn't have the comments and had a couple different. This is an area where there's kind of some language that there were a couple items because we didn't pursue them in 2020. I kind of just had placeholder language to put back into the next year. So this. That one might be fixed in the more final version, but I'll confirm.
Okay.
Okay.
Any more discussion on item 4D?
The one other thing, Ron, I had put this in the agenda initially, and I took it out as a specific item because I figured we could just talk about it here with the
Yeah, we've got some
utility report. So we have this sustainability mission statement that kicks off the green tier report every year. We didn't have it, and then we didn't have it, and then all of a sudden, I think about 2013, I don't remember exactly when, but all of a sudden we did, and I'm not sure where it's from because I can't find any details on the genesis of this statement. I can't tell if it was a group that worked on it or if it was just the sustainability specialist at the time who created it. Diane, I don't know if you would know because I think you were on maybe Chris as well, on the RCC 7-8 years ago.
Well, I
was kind of hoping that Rick would call in because I thought he might know too.
I can tell you that this is the first time I've seen it.
Oh, interesting.
We often, RCC did, we saw the Green Tier Legacy annual report the first couple of times, and then I don't think that's been brought to RCC for the last several years, and so I can't tell you where that came from.
Okay, well, that's something that should change. I think this should probably be presented to the RCC every year when it's submitted.
I agree.
Yeah.
I mean, look, you're already helping me get things right.
Well, remember, some of our meetings were canceled last year because of the pandemic, and my memory might be a little bit sketchy about years before that. But when I read this, I thought that mission statement, I thought, where did that come from?
Yeah. So this would be something that would be part of a sustainability plan, is if we don't, if we feel like we need to create a new mission statement, we would do that. But we already have one. I'm just very curious about where it came from.
Rick, go ahead, Rick.
That was something that Christopher Canto came with or developed when we started in 2020. So Christopher Canto is a half-time LTE sustainability specialist in 2013. So Christopher actually developed that himself. I don't remember. I mean, I know, and I guess my recollection, I was pretty sure that I included the Green Tier Legacy Community Annual Report in all the years, all the years that basically all 10 years that I was the environmental engineer. Now, we may not have talked about, we may not have had a lot of discussion about it, but I was pretty sure that it was in, and generally I tried to have it in the spring of the year because, technically it was due to DNR and in that. And we may have, I mean, there may have been times that we wrapped it up, between the sustainability specialists and myself, we may have wrapped it up, just before the deadline and then included in the following report or in a following RCC meeting, because we generally didn't meet in April. So there may have been times that actually didn't get it, put in the packet for RCC until May. But at least my recollection is that we did have the annual report to RCC each of the years that, because we started at least from 2009 on. Well, 2009 is when we joined, when the Green Tier Legacy Communities Charter started. Fitchburg was one of the 5 charter members, and I was very involved in helping to get the whole charter set up, along with Thousand Friends of Wisconsin and others.
My memory, at least with this year, was that I intended to include this in the April agenda packet because I had just submitted it, and then the April meeting was canceled. No, this year was fine. That would have been for 2020. For 2020, there was a canceled meeting in March that I was going to present it at.
Yeah.
This year, of course, I haven't submitted last year's yet because I was waiting for the new scorecard to be finished. But that was at least what happened for the 2019 report, was that the meeting I was going to present it at, we ended up not having. So I just kind of included it in my sustainability update the next month.
I think regardless, I think we should work on that mission statement.
I agree. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's, I might write it differently, but yeah, I think, yeah.
Probably a full mission, vision, and values would be part of what we would come up with as part of a sustainability plan.
Yeah,
I think it would.
Yeah.
And then it's a question of whether we would want to come into a planning process already having a mission statement, or if we want the creation of that to be part of the initial. Now, that would take time from the planning, but it could be nice to kick it off with that, make sure that everyone's on the same page, and kind of talking about those, exactly as you said, the mission and values right from the outset.
Okay. Good. Any other discussions on item 4D? If not, we can move over to item 5, agenda, old business. I'm not sure, item 5A, solid waste collection rates for 2022. Who was going to talk about that?
I can present that really quickly. I'll just kind of give a quick kickoff. So this is chatted with Claudia a little bit on Monday, but we've got the new solid waste collection rates here. You've got them all in your packet.
Yep.
So from 2021 to 2022, I don't remember exactly what Claudia would discuss in detail, but the big things highlighted here are the unit charge is $220 per household for next year, and for apartments it's $675.
So what's the percent change from 2021? Is it the
percent change is right here, 5.26%. So yeah, this is a 5% increase from this year to next. And that represents I think $8 or $9 per household, I believe.
Do we know why the reason that it's changing 5% or why it's going up? I know things go up every year, but
right. So things go up every year. A couple things that were key in this. One was the fund balance, trying to make sure that we don't draw that down too heavily. And another one is percent of unassigned annual budget. So this is so what percent of the total department budget is kind of left in reserve. And so my understanding is that there is kind of a directive or a suggestion. I'm not sure how strong a word to use, but to keep this number above 25%. And so that played into having this increase of 5%.
If I understand this chart correctly, and I think the highlighting is a little bit, the location of some of the highlighting is misleading. What they're forecasting for 2022 with that rate would put the unassigned fund balance at 377,601. And to get that back into the chart that's listed there, that's like 482,000, if I understand that correctly, which is still higher than the end of 2017, higher than 2018. I don't like this increase. I think this is too high. We've talked about this in the past, and we just keep jumping to a higher and higher increase, and I don't think it's necessary. We still have a very healthy fund balance, and I would suggest that we lower this by $5.
So we took a big jump from 2019 to 2020.
We did. That had to do with renegotiating contracts with Pelletary. So we put out the bid again. The biggest factor in that large jump was that because China stopped accepting a lot of materials for recycling, and so recycling has just become more expensive because that's a significant component of our contract with Pelletary. It means that our contract with them also became pricier. So there's some degree to which I would say that maybe in previous years the overall cost might have been artificially low just because China set their prices so low to be competitive.
I assume this will come forward as a resolution that will go to RCC and council. I'm sure it'll go to finance as well, but at that point, it would be interesting to I can get an official answer from our finance director about the fund balance policy and how that plays into it, kind of in the same vein as what you just said, Diane, is why are we continuing to increase it? Because I believe their fund balance is healthy and above our self-imposed, rules, because Fitchburg has some pretty strict fund balance requirements above and beyond what's required or even recommended. So I think it's a good question. I can get an answer from the finance director on that once we're taking a look at but that I think believably after the budget process or as part of the budget process. So
I think this has to be decided as part of the budget process. And I think last year this came to RCC after it became a resolution, and unfortunately I had to miss that meeting, but everything was pretty much put in place. And although RCC was given an opportunity to comment, nothing, it was really after the fact, I think. And this year, I think Claudia intentionally brought it to RCC before this is being proposed to council or anywhere else. And I would encourage staff to take another look at this and reduce it, like I said, down to reduce it $5, which would put the increase just in line with what we did last year.
Phil, do we know if another one of the factors was the addition of the cardboard containers out at the recycling site?
So that is something that did add onto our, see if I can find this again. I know Claudia pointed it out to me. Those two cardboard containers did add here about $10,000, I believe. So that's this change order. Had to do with the two additional cardboard containers, yeah. So I don't know how significant an increase that is divided by all the Fitchburg households.
Probably not too significant, being only $10,000. But
maybe $1 per.
I know this is one where we traditionally had gone up, just a couple dollars a year, and I understand the big jump and what happened there, but we were trying to be cost conscious because that was such a huge jump. And then, I also agree with, I mean, we did a jump that was higher kind of year to year without any other circumstances. Last year, $6 would, I would say, historically be on the high side. So if we can swing it, I would like to keep that down as well and continue to look for ways that we can keep that overall increase from continuing to kind of jump up at the rate that it's been jumping up in recent years.
Sure. I mean, I don't know, I have not had this conversation with anybody but Claudia. But I'm not sure what an ideal fund balance is. I mean, we can see here at the end of last year, the fund balance was, well over $500,000. And so that's already been dropping down $30,000, $40,000 a year. So right now we're projecting that at the end of next year, it'll be 70,000 below where it was at the end of last year. So we're dipping into that fund balance a pretty decent amount already. And at some point, I don't know what that point is. At some point it has to, we have to let it recover, but yeah, that's not something I have the detailed information on myself.
So with the increase in 2020 from 2019, the fund balance didn't seem to go up all that much compared to previous years. You know why that might have been?
Sorry, what's the question?
I was just saying the fund balance at the end of 2019 to 2020 didn't increase all that much, even though we had a big increase in the charges.
Well, I can explain that. Yeah. Ron, that's because our contract with Pelletieri increased so significantly, so it was offset by costs. So there was nothing, that was just all absorbed.
Okay.
Thanks, Ann.
Yeah.
So to maintain the fund balance going up, I'm just trying to look at. Okay, I see those bottom columns. Explain it a little bit.
One thing I'll say though is so fund balance, the status of the fund balance is reported out as part of our annual audit, and we get an opinion from the financial management company that we hire, Ellers, to take a look at that, and it's presented yearly, and that information exists. I can't seem to find it just in this second. I've taken a chance to look at it, but when that resolution comes back, I'll request that the finance include some of that information about the status of the fund balance, or at least for this commission, so that we can take a look at it and learn a little bit more about it. So I'll make that request.
All right, thanks, Gabrielle.
Well, my suggestion, and I don't know how anybody else feels who hasn't weighed in, my suggestion is, as a commission, that we recommend to staff that they reduce their recommendation.
I would agree with that, Diane.
Yeah, I would agree too. Is that something we have to vote on, or is it just?
I believe the best time to do it would be a recommendation to council when the resolution comes forward, because I think this is all still preliminary at this point. But when that resolution comes forward, we can amend it to reduce the amount of the charge per unit by $5 or $6 or however much we want. We vote on that amendment, then we vote on the amended resolution, and when it goes to council, when I report on what RCC did, I can explain what the amendment is, and we can even introduce it as amended by RCC if we'd like to do that.
I appreciate that, Gabrielle, but I'd like to head that off. I mean, in the past, not last year, but years prior to that, we've discussed this with staff, and then before staff makes their recommendation, they take our input into account, and that's what I'm trying to do now. It doesn't seem to work well after it goes. Well, I don't think last year it worked very well to come back from council and everything is already pretty much carved in stone. I would just like us to recommend to staff that they lower it and lower their proposal going forward. And if they don't do it, they don't do it. But we always have the option that you just suggested, Gabriella.
I can talk to Misty about our finance director about when this is coming forward. Because I don't know what I don't recall exactly what the full process is, but I can find out what the steps are and when we're likely to see this, so we can, and I can talk to her about how we can make a recommendation in advance of the resolution. So
I'm wondering, Phil, if you could just pass along our concern. I mean, assuming that the rest of RCC commissioners are on board, and get her thoughts. If Claudia thinks it's, this is, the horse has already left the barn, and it's too late for that, then we can pursue another option. But I feel like otherwise we're blindsiding. I feel like we might be blindsiding her if we don't like this proposal. I think we should tell her that in case there's just time for her to change it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I will. Yeah, I'll talk with Claudia about this.
So should we, Ron? Should we vote to see if all commissioners are on board, or how do you want to do that?
Yeah, I think I'd like to take a vote.
Okay.
So the motion would be to make a recommendation to what, the council
No.
or the staff?
To staff.
The staff, that the 2022 rate be reduced by $5. Because right now it's
To
what,
215, right.
well,
I
it's
don't
220
think-
would bring it down to 215.
Right. I don't think we need a resolution. I think we just
I
need
think
to-
because it wasn't already in the packet, I don't know that you could have like a formal vote, but I think certainly a kind of an informal sense of the RCC. And if everybody's on board, that I can relay that.
So that would be,
Actually, it is in the packet to discuss this, so I think we could vote formally, but we don't need a resolution.
Okay.
okay. So that would be my motion to reduce the 2022 unit charge from 220 to 215.
And I agree with that. How does everybody else feel?
I agree.
Second,
I agree.
all in favor?
I
Aye.
Right.
All opposed? Okay,
Thank you, Phil,
Thank
for
you.
delivering that.
yeah, thank you, Joe. Okay, next item of old business 5B, Operation Clean Sweep on October 23rd. Phil, want to give us an update on that? Or
Yep.
any-
So I've met with the clean sweep, the MAM swap, Dane County folks a couple times in the past couple months. And we are well on our way to hosting this clean sweep event in Fitchburg on October 23rd. So here's the site location. I basically just got the flyer up here. This is posted on our website as well as on the, is it Ticketmaster site, I think, where tickets can be purchased. But here's the map of the location. It's going to be in this parking lot adjacent to Marketplace Drive facing the West Fire Station. So Funk's Pub and the businesses up here will still be open that Saturday. So we're looking to have all the traffic just use this one driveway for entrance and exit. So they'll have their trucks in here. We'll kind of direct traffic around and out. But yeah, so it is if you're unfamiliar with Clean Sweep, it is an additional location at the Dane County landfill over on Highway 18 where you can drop off hazardous household wastes, paying a small fee for carloads of items like that shouldn't be just disposed of in your trash can. The nice thing about this is that it brings the drop-off site to residents. So people who may have difficulty getting to the physical location at the landfill, either because of transportation limitations or because of their scheduling, it's open most commonly, I think, just on work days. So they like to have an event occasionally that brings this functionality out to residents. So this gives us something in Fitchburg. It has a pretty decent proximity to some of our lower income neighborhoods as well, which will be nice. And yeah, hoping to have a really good turnout.
Who reviews the list of items that we accept?
That is
curious
set
because
by
it
Clean
says-
Sweep.
photographic chemicals, being a photographer, I don't think hardly anyone uses photographic chemicals anymore.
Probably not, but for the one person who does, this is a list of accepted and not accepted items from Dane County themselves. Clean Sweep sets this. There might be a few items that they would accept at their drop-off site that they don't for this event, just because of logistical concerns. But yeah, this flyer was put together by Dane County.
Hey,
So-
Phil, I had a quick question. So just reading the flyer, it says $10 a vehicle. So
Yes.
just in terms of us getting information out there, and just to clarify, so basically people, in order to drop these items off, they need to purchase this ticket ahead of time. Is that correct? And then
it's
when they go through the line?
Yeah. So it costs $10 per vehicle. I do think that could end up being cheaper than dropping it off on site, because I think there are some items that would be more expensive than that if you take it to the landfill. But anyway, it's $10 per vehicle, and the recommendation is buying them in advance, just because if they do have a really high turnout, people who are looking to get a ticket that day might get turned away. So you don't have to purchase it in advance, but it's the safest option.
Okay.
Phil,
Thanks.
just in case anybody comments, I don't know if you're helping that day or if it's just going to be staffed by Dane County, but the last time we had this in Fitchburg, we didn't charge anybody unless they were dropping off, I think maybe car batteries or something. Otherwise it was free. In Fitchburg, this was only for Fitchburg residents. We did check IDs, and Fitchburg subsidized it.
That was mentioned early on in the discussion process, and my understanding was that Fitchburg didn't have the budget to subsidize for residents.
I'm not complaining. I'm just telling you in case somebody says something.
Yep, that was brought up. I won't be able to be at the event. I'll be out of town. But yeah, that is, it was an early discussion, was about that. The thing I'm still trying to confirm is whether there's going to be any ticket assistance for low-income households, and I don't remember where the discussion landed there.
So the ticket that you get, that doesn't give you a time. That just, I mean, that's
I
not.
don't. Correct.
Okay.
I think it's not. I think it's not time linked.
Okay.
And this is, Phil, this is for anyone in Dane County. Is
Correct.
that correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And there's no limit to the amount of things you can drop off.
I think whatever you can fit in your car.
So gather the whole neighborhood.
So if you've got if you're rolling with a Prius C, your ticket might be a little pricier per item than if you've got a Subaru Outback or something. Come in your F-350.
So Phil, it says batteries rechargeable. It won't take regular batteries like you have with a flashlight?
No.
No?
No, Dane County thinks that you should landfill those. That's what their site says.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, actually, I think it was in the packet. I saw that. If you scroll up more on this flyer, or somewhere.
There's somewhere down here, alkaline batteries.
Here, it says in here to landfill.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Which stressed me out.
Yeah, but it's been there for a couple of years on their website.
Yeah.
And it's too bad it's on this flyer because we're accepting those at our electronics event.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do we have somebody stand there with a bucket and accept them, and then we take them to our event?
I'll say I wouldn't discourage you from trying it.
It does look like
I think this is fully staffed by Dane County. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
So we're just hosting.
Right. I'm unclear on whether they are going to ask me to come up with another staff member who can be there, since I'll be out of town. But yeah, it'll be, as far as I know, just fully staffed by the county.
Okay.
Well, thanks for coordinating this.
Yeah. Thank you, Phil.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're real grateful to the property manager here too. because initially we had discussed doing this at the recycling drop-off site on South Fish Hatchery, and one, that was a little bit less of a central location, and two, we didn't want to have people associate in their minds a recycling drop-off with just dropping off batteries and paint and things. So being able to get a different site that wouldn't lead to a lot of cross-contamination in our cardboard dumpsters was really nice.
Good.
Yeah, fingers crossed for dry weather.
So will you send whoever gave you permission to use the parking lot, will you send them a thank you then?
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Good, thanks.
Yeah, it's a good idea, Diane. Thank you. Okay, if no other questions or discussion on this, we can we'll give Phil a break and move on to item 5D, the Fitchburg Star articles.
Oh, I believe we're on 5C, so it's me.
5C, I'm sorry, yes.
It's me one more time.
Yep, I'm sorry.
So this one, Claudia included some information in the packet on the Fall Recycling Day event. We are still looking for a few volunteers. So as of right now, I can actually pull this up and do a screen share as well. That we do have a few people quite a few people have volunteered to help with the Recycling Day event. We've got a couple spots that we still, actually, this looks pretty full. I'll have to check with Claudia on this because this looks full, but the narrative, her note says that we're still looking for volunteers.
Yeah.
If you are not currently signed up and you would like to help. So the big one is getting paper out of cars and taking them over to the recycling truck to be shredded, which is, if you do that for a couple hours, that's quite a bit of lifting. So Dakota and I will be doing that a little bit. It looks like Diane, Ron, and Gabriella are going to be doing that some. If you're not signed up and you would like to be, either you can speak up now or just let me or Claudia know in an email at some point.
It's really not that much heavy lifting because they've got carts that roll up to the cars and you just dump it into the cart and then you roll the cart back to the truck. So you're not necessarily carrying big boxes back to the truck.
Oh, they're letting us off easy.
Yeah.
So Phil, I think Claudia's email also mentioned that if we also are bringing stuff that we have to recycle, that they'll be able to do that. Since we're working, we can't drop things off technically, so.
Right, during the event, yep.
And I do have things I need to drop off.
Yeah.
Her question, and maybe you're getting to this, Phil, her question was, how do we want to count the number of participants? I told her in the past, Pelletieri has a flyer that they like us to hand out. I don't know if they're going to do that this time because they're not staffing it, but they've given us X number of sheets of this flyer, and then we know when we've handed out, we know how many flyers we hand out. So that's how we count how many people participated. But she thought maybe Kim or whoever is directing traffic might want to have just a
clicker. Yeah.
So what are your thoughts on that?
That could be good. One of the difficulties with just doing some kind of a clicker is that you're going to have some cars show up at just one location and some cycle through multiples. And so figuring out, I think we'd probably need 2 different entrances with clickers because people can come in over off of Lacey Road for the shredding and then go through the parking lot over to over back behind the police department for the e-recycling. Versus if you just come in from that entrance over near the police department, that's a different car.
I don't think they'll let you come in directly that way. I think you'll have to circle around City Hall.
I think I'll have to check the map. I think we have 2 entrances set up depending on whether you're just going straight to the e-recycling or the battery drop off or the med drop off, or if you're starting with the shred. But yeah, I'll have to check on that. I hadn't talked with Dakota or Claudia about how we're going to count participants. So that would be something to add into our discussions.
Yeah, and I think at the last meeting we had talked about changing the direction. And then I think we came back to keeping it the same, just because I think it would get pretty confusing because people have been used to the way that the traffic pattern has been. So I'm happy to be at the corner of Lacey, and if you need me to click while I talk to people or direct them, I'm happy to do that.
Okay.
Go ahead, Rick.
Yeah, one thing, just so Claudia did contact me earlier this week, just because I had offered some suggestions during the last meeting about this orientation. So I did go through my suggestions. She liked that. Now whether she actually brings that forth, but you know, everything would then be in a counterclockwise location, and then wherever Kim is, if she's kind of the main greeter, you know, the location that Claudia, if she decides to go with that configuration, there'd be a pretty easy way to, you know, just to do a clicker where you may not know who's going to do, you know, shred versus electronics versus, but you'd have a total number, and then you could try to, you know, you could get some just rough ideas. I mean, there's not any, you know, stringent requirement where if you miss a couple or if you get, I mean, it's nice. It's just nice to have relative, but I don't know that it's necessarily critical that you have precise numbers and they're
Sure.
entirely accurate. I think the ballpark idea is really the big thing that's important.
I think I agree. I think it'd be nice to know the number of participants, and Pelletieri can always give us the pounds or tons of paper, and the electronics people can give us a rough idea of the number of the kind of electronics. So if we know the number of participants, I think that's the big thing.
Can we use traffic counters? You know, things that go lay on the road.
We could, but
The only problem with that is that there's going to be seniors. I mean, the police are going to be, you know,
There'll be
moving vehicles around. You know, the
Yeah.
senior center is going to be using. So you may not.
you
have
get a high count.
Right. So
Yeah,
it may
and
not
there's
be-
usually something going on at the community center as well, like classes, ballet classes or whatever. And there's people coming in and trying to park.
And I think in terms of getting the signage out and doing coordination of volunteers, there's going to be enough other logistical stuff that we're doing for setup that we probably don't want to try to set up and set up the traffic counters as well. I think a clicker, just a manual count, would be easier to coordinate.
Okay.
Just give everybody a pen and have them write on the back of their hands.
Well, I tell you, it'd be a lot easier than trying to juggle emptying, shredding out and handing pieces of paper to people. So I'm all for that.
Okay. Any other discussion on item 5C? Thanks, Phil.
Mhm.
So now we'll give you a break. So we'll move on to Diane, item 5D, the Fitchburg Star articles.
Okay, so Chris got back from Africa and scrambled to get his article off to the Star. Unfortunately, Jim was on vacation and there was a miscommunication with the staff that was there, and Chris's article was printed online, but not in the hard copy that's delivered to everybody. And so we pushed back the printed version of Chris's article to next month. And if you've gotten the Star from this month, it had Phil's article mentioning the hazardous waste cleanup, because that was intentional so that people could plan ahead and start gathering their hazardous waste. So Chris has next month covered. And then I think Ron was going to do
November.
a salt article. And if I remember correctly, I meant to refresh my memory. I think Gabriella was doing something about holiday recycling or waste reduction or something. No? Am I just imagining that?
That wasn't me, but it's possible someone mentioned that.
Okay, well, anyway, we're covered through November. If we need another article, I can come up with one. I'll just have to go back and look to see what we had for December, but we'll update this again in October. So thanks to, I guess thanks to a little snafu on the Star's part, and they were quite apologetic. We've got October and November covered.
Okay.
Yeah, I think just with that, Diane, I do need to kind of freshen it up so it fits October. So I will freshen the article up a little bit and get that submitted here in the next 7 days, so they have plenty of time to work with it.
Okay, good, thanks.
I don't know if anyone else has got these emails, but since my article was published, I've got emails from several different vendors saying that they would put my article on a plaque.
Really?
Yeah,
How did they get your email address?
I have no idea.
Oh,
I-
Ron, I've received those as well.
Oh, okay. I thought that was interesting. Well, how'd they get my email address? It wasn't on there anywhere.
Is it on the is it on the website?
It's yeah, the
Yeah.
city's list of boards and commissions has members' email addresses listed there.
It's on there, yeah. So,
Not always. So if you don't want it there, you don't have to have it there.
yeah, I found that interesting. They send you a nice picture of what it would look like.
Good sales technique. They have their
Yeah.
marketing strategies down.
Okay, thank you, Diane.
Diane, I did start. I don't remember if this was something that we had that had been brought up in the past. I think there had been a discussion about wanting to have maybe a little bit more organized archive of past articles that have been written.
Mhm.
So I did start putting this together, just a really simple list in an Excel
wow.
spreadsheet.
Yeah.
So I can send this over. I was able to get it back as far as January of 18. I didn't know if we needed to go back any further than 3 years, but at least I've got this here. I can send that over to you and let me know if anything is off.
That's terrific. Thanks, Phil. I don't
Yeah,
know
thanks,
where
Phil.
where did you come up with that?
I did a lot of searching through the available e-editions of the Star that are still online. They cut off right here.
Thanks.
Yeah,
That's helpful because when we're trying to brainstorm new ideas,
Yeah.
making sure we're not repeating some of these topics is
Mhm.
is good.
if you could send that to us, Phil, I appreciate it.
Yep, I can do that.
Thank you. Okay, item 5E, Chris and Kim, going to give an update on the Aldo Leopold and the MSD recycling initiative.
Sure. So things are moving along in the schools. I think since the last time we met, Diane and Kim and I have participated in meetings with the school district, with Aldo Leopold School, and we've talked through what they want to try, which is this, and they got internal approval to do stations in their hallways, which is kind of what we wanted to do initially. So this is an idea that came back pre-COVID that they wanted to do as part of more breakfast in the classroom. And so it's been a little bit of a challenge with the current supply chain to get equipment, but some of that equipment is starting to come in this week. I've gotten some things over to Dustin, but we had initially planned on 7 stations, and the initial feedback from some of the teachers is that they want more stations. So Dustin and the administrative team at Leopold is complying with that, and they said, okay, we'll give you 11 stations. So that just meant that we had to get some more equipment. I've been cutting carton holes back in recycling lids again. Everything feels like hunky-dory way back in 2019, what I was doing with some of these. But the next step will be to give some feedback as to how things are working. Initial feedback that I've got from Dustin when I met with him one morning when I jumped over to the school and set foot in the school for the first time in 2 years, just to go in and drop off some lids just inside the door. He was saying that the trash bins were filling up pretty quickly, and so I want to dig into that a little bit more when we next get some feedback from them. But I believe that will be in early October. Again, Diane and Kim and I have all been participating in that, and we'll continue to. The other news that came through is that in large part to our effort with kind of spearheading this effort and getting the Carton Council kind of behind us, and Carton Council continues to be behind us. We just met with them today. We met with Debbie Dotson, and she said we told her that there's plans for expanding to 10 elementary schools, and she said the Carton Council is behind you guys 100%, and will continue to provide funding for the Madison School District. So that's pretty exciting. Leopold continues to be one of the pilot schools that we use to test out new things, but these are things that they want to kind of roll out to their members and other schools nationwide. So it's kind of cool to be, at the cutting edge of figuring some of these things out, because not too many schools are jumping in there to try this out during COVID. And we haven't had a chance to get into school for 2 years, but we're still kind of pushing forward on it. So that's exciting. The other thing that it's done is enabled, just kind of the framework that we have in place. It enabled Sustain Dane to go after another grant. So they pursued a grant with the World Wildlife Fund. And I think I may have mentioned this last time, but they pursued a $5,000 grant, and the World Wildlife Fund came back and said, we want you to pursue our $50,000 grant. And since the last meeting, that has been awarded to Sustain Dane. And so that's going to be a lot of, it's going to be a lot more audits, and we plan to audit at least 10 schools before Thanksgiving and go out and see what's going on with the waste in the schools during the pandemic. So I think that'll be pretty exciting stuff. But one of the goals with it being the World Wildlife Fund is that they want to really try to reduce the food waste, which I think is a pretty exciting initiative. So it's kind of combined with our carton recycling that we're doing through the Carton Council, but also kind of getting at trying to reduce the food waste. And so having this relationship with also the head of nutrition and the chief of operations at Madison School District that ties everything together. So it's kind of a really cool sustainability project, that kind of, started again with a little spark from what we did at Leopold. So going to enjoy to watch this thing grow and hoping that we can start to scale it up now. It's going to be really exciting.
That's great.
We also had a parent from another elementary school join us for the last Zoom call. I don't know if you want to mention that, Chris, because she's interested in starting this at the school where her child attends. So I thought that was pretty encouraging.
Yeah.
Yeah. Nope. Yeah. More people are kind of jumping on board as they see it more. It's getting a little bit more run with Sustain Danes. They have like a reach on their social media of 2,700 people. So it's getting more reach there. So I think that's exciting. She's a parent, a stay-at-home parent, and her child goes to Thoreau, which isn't too far outside of Fitchburg. It's just down on, I believe, just off of Monroe Street. But exciting that other people are kind of getting involved. And then, this has also sparked kind of the community level grant that Sustain Dane was awarded, just kind of continuing kind of what we're doing at the schools, but kind of doing it more at the community level. So again, kind of telling people about cartons that they can be recycled. But there is a billboard up if you get down to Regent Street right now that says recycle better. And then there's a really good link on the Sustain Dane website about, and one of the links is to our Fitchburg recycling guide. So recycling better on the Sustain Dane website is something worth checking out. Just has some really good recycling tips, and it also kind of shows the reach of their master recycler program. One of which is the article that I wrote that didn't get published quite yet. So know that the reach is quite it needs to be. I don't think a lot of people go through the website of the Fitchburg Star. So I'm glad that we were able to get that article, back into the publication loop for October.
Great, thank you. So is there any update on the MMSD recycling initiative?
So that I think that's pretty much it for the MMSD recycling initiative. Yeah.
Okay.
Or Kim, I don't know if you have anything to add.
Okay. All right, let's move on to the next item on the agenda, which is item 6, council update. Gabriella.
Yes, thank you. So I'll start with the bad news first. Water utility rates, we all voted last year for them to go up, but this coming bill is the first one that actually reflects that increase. So those increased bills are happening. Misty, our finance director, did a video with Fact TV talking about that. So that exists if that's something you care to see or share. Second thing, the Metropolitan Sewerage District, which is, that district basically covers most of Dane County, their director and chief engineer came to speak at our last committee of the whole meeting for the council. And announced that sewer rates are going to be increasing over the next 6 years. And I'm trying to get a handle on exactly how much it is. But basically, there's been an underinvestment in infrastructure for a long period of time, and that infrastructure is coming due for repairs and replacement. So it's a significant increase, and it's going to be a continuous increase for 6 years. So I'm trying to get some solid answers on that because I thought his presentation was a little bit vague on the details. So I'll let you know if I find more specifics out about that. And I don't know what the city plan is in terms of if we're going to do any advertising about it, because it's ultimately not our responsibility. We provide the infrastructure, but the service is done completely through that municipal service, not at the discretion of the city.
Does this have anything to do with treating salt in the water, or what's prompting this?
It's an underinvestment in infrastructure over. I mean, they built a lot of the infrastructure in the 1930s, and so salt is something that they constantly deal with, but it's a cascading series of issues that are all coming to the fore right now.
Well, it seems like this should have been planned on earlier.
That would be nice. Yeah. Yeah. The other thing I'm trying to get a handle on is if this is a sort of more akin to a special assessment where we pay increased rates for a period of time and then the rates go back to what they were originally, or if they're just planning to increase them, reduce them. And because the increase I'm thinking is like, you're talking, I think we'd be talking about like more than $50 of an increase, or possibly even more than that. For I think for the yearly rate. It's not insignificant. So I'm trying to get information on that, but I just thought you all would be interested to know as an info point. Next thing, Transportation Transit Committee meeting on September 9th, so just a little while ago. We had a really in-depth presentation about the choices facing the Metro transit system here in the city. And there were some presentations by Madison Metro staff, and then also our transportation engineer. A couple of things that are related to RCC is Metro is doing kind of a big network design study to look at how they want to potentially redo some of the system, and if they want to improve ridership, which is making sure that routes run more frequently so people can use them easier, or improve coverage, which is, make more routes even though if they run less frequently, so that more people have close access to routes. So those are kind of the decisions about how we balance those two issues. And this is a network ride, so it's not just in the city of Fitchburg, but obviously it also includes the city of Fitchburg. And we will be having to make decisions about what we want our routes to look like early in 2022. So that network design study is on the Metro website. And if you're interested in public transportation, it's a really interesting read. And also that meeting on September 9th, I think is really good information if you're interested in like the bigger picture with public transit. A side note is that they talked about that they're working on their bus rapid transit system, which right now is only in the city of Madison. But there is plans to do a green line down Fish Hatchery Road. That whether or not that extends into the city of Fitchburg is really at our discretion. That decision, we would be building that in 2024 that's probably the timeline. So there's time for the city to decide whether or not we want bus rapid transit into the city, but that is on the table. So it's an interesting thing to note. Next, the Parks Commission is actually working on a long overdue refresh of the Parks and Open Space Plan. And they've been talking about it all year, but they're actually going to have an open house meeting about it on Thursday, September 30th, like just a couple weeks away. It's going to be 6:30 p.m. There's going to be an open house with some information that you can come and view. And then 7 p.m. there's going to be presentations, and then hopefully a conversation that has community input about what you'd like to see in your Parks and Open Spaces plan. I think the Parks is potentially doing a pretty significant refresh of it. So it's not just, a few small sections, like they're trying to look at maybe expanding the scope and vision of what the Parks plan covers. So it will be worthwhile if you're interested. And obviously it has a lot of intersecting issues with us.
Where's that at? Where's that, Gabrielle?
City Hall.
City Hall, okay.
It hasn't been released on the website yet, but I know that's being requested. So as soon as see a news flash about it, I can send it all to you all. And then next thing, Bike Fitchburg did a really interesting I just heard a proposal about the greenway system in Fitchburg, where we make a conscious effort to connect the different bike paths in the city together so that we have a fully networked biking areas within the city of Fitchburg, so people can get around, get to the other trails. And it's a pretty interesting proposal that I think is going to come before the council soon. And, you know, I'm sure Phil knows more about it, but I just thought it was a really cool idea, and it's like a really exciting proposal. And so that's forthcoming. So something exciting that will be coming soon. And then the last thing is that the budget is going to be released very soon, before the end of the month. And so that will be posted to the city website. There'll be a news flash about it, and then the budget process starts. So the schedule is actually on the website. A lot of it happens in October, but there will be a public hearing as part of the council meeting for the initial draft. And then we will also have a public hearing after the amendments are proposed for people that want to contribute to, you know, if they care about a certain amendment. We have to wait to see what the mayor proposes. I've asked him to include some of the things that the solar panels at the lift station that I had added to the CIP, and the hybrid electric vehicle fund. I'm hoping there'll be funding for that. I think the sustainability plan is there. I'm hoping there's some funding for the forestry department to make sure that we can, you know, fully protect our trees and natural areas. Things like that I'm going to be keeping an eye out for, and I probably will be submitting amendments if it's not what I hoped it would be. So we'll just have to wait and see what it looks like. And I know the town of Madison acquisition is the end of next year, and so there is some additional staffing that basically needs to be hired early in the year to accommodate that towards the end of the year. So it will be a complicated budget this year. Yeah, and that's my update, unless there's any questions.
Great, thank you. Any questions for Gabrielle? If not, we can move on to item 7, staff and commissioner updates. Start with solid waste. I assume, Phil, you're gonna be carrying this.
Yeah, Claudia didn't provide much for this since she's not here. So the only update for solid waste is that the date for the fall recycling event set, but I think we already all know this, Saturday, November 6th from 8 a.m. to 11 a.m. For stormwater, recording of the second public information meeting for the Sherrill Drive Stormwater Project has been posted online. Can be found. I don't know. I think you should be able to just go into the city website, into Public Works Stormwater Projects, and there's a link to the Sherrill Drive Stormwater Project, and then also the Curry Court and Old Indian Trail Stormwater Study. Findings from that study will be presented to Committee of the Whole on September 22nd. So that's next Wednesday.
What time is that?
So that will be, let me see if, yes, here we go. So let me do a quick screen share so you can see this as well. So you can see the path here is departments, public works, stormwater, and then projects. You see on the left side here as well. So Sherrill Drive Stormwater Project, if you click through there, you should be able to see the recording from August 26th that Claudia mentioned from the public information meeting. For Curry Court and Old Indian Trail, we've got info here. There will be a committee of the whole presentation next week with study findings. I'm not sure. So the meeting is 7 to 9. I'm not sure where in the meeting that presentation is supposed to take place. But yeah, it'll be next Wednesday, some point from 7 to 9. If you check the agenda, you should be able to see relatively where in the meeting that'll occur.
Okay.
That's it for stormwater. And then sustainability, you got most of it today. But there are 3 additional items. So one, the recording, I don't know if this is something that anybody was aware of yet, but the August tree diversity event, if you weren't there, it was recorded by Fact TV. That recording has been posted online. So you can go onto the Fact TV website, and let's just
So
explore this again together and see how easy that is to find, because I just have the link that I was sent. So if we go to Government Fact TV, community channel, oh, I get these pop-ups. Oh, you know what? I occasionally have issues getting into Fact TV from home, so I might not be able to, I think, while I'm logged into the VPN for work. So anyway, in the packet, there are links with this staff update. So the August tree diversity event, you can click that link and see the tree diversity video. We also have a recording from the May Sustainability Bike Tour. So that was recorded and edited down into a much more digestible chunk of time. So that link, you can see it's about a 25 to 30-minute video for that one. So you can see either one of those two videos on Fact TV now, which is kind of fun if you weren't able to attend. The third one, sorry,
just a quick note. You typically can find those videos also very easily on YouTube, and I have been known to or search on YouTube to find things that are difficult to find on the Fitchburg website, and that goes for things on the Fitchburg website. Google search typically works pretty well if you put in enough search terms.
Yep.
Pops up.
Was there
Awesome.
another tree diversity event in August, or is that the one that we did back in June and July?
I forgot what month, so I typed in August. It's the tree diversity event that we held, and I probably got the month wrong.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Very good.
Yep.
I just wanted to make sure I didn't miss something there. I was like, man, they got after it after we had that event.
Yeah. So the last item for sustainability is, I guess, less of a thing for the RCC, but just the Growing Sustainable Communities Conference in Dubuque, Iowa, has been canceled for the second straight year. So I was hoping to head to that in mid-August or mid-October, and unfortunately, we'll get to the end of this year, and I still will have only attended one of those since I started at Fitchburg. So that's too bad. Hopefully next year we'll be able to have that again. It's a really nice opportunity to meet with and learn from other municipalities around the region and around the country. But just have to keep up the Zoom networking, which, as we all know, is just as good.
Yeah. Was it canceled because of COVID?
It was canceled because of COVID, yeah. Fortunately, they gave us enough time to cancel hotel rooms. I feel bad for all those hotels that were counting on that business. Yeah, that's it for sustainability.
Okay, great. Thank you. Item 7D, activities being conducted or monitored by commissioners. I would just an opportunity if you have anything to share with the group. One thing I'd like to mention, and Diane brought it up too, is that our packet seems to be very long every time. And I'm just wondering if there's a way we can shorten it by having links to different things. So instead of having to download a large packet.
That would be great. Yeah, I can mention that to Claudia. I think I might have put together one of the longest packets that we've had since I started here. So my apologies. That green tier.
There was a stormwater one that was really long as well.
Yeah.
Information
One of those
was
stormwater
good,
reports was very long, but yeah, the 3 different sections of that green tier report was that got pretty extensive. I'll have to think about if there'd be a way to do that. I think if we saved things to the city website, then we could link to them. But I'm not sure. Sometimes that would be more feasible than others, because once it's saved to the city website, it's publicly accessible. And if it's a document that's in progress, maybe we don't want that. But yeah, it would be nice if we had a 2 megabyte file instead of 38 or whatever these ones are.
Well, actually, Phil, the packet is saved to the website. So even if it's a document in progress,
Oh, right.
it's there. But I was just hoping that maybe either in the staff update or a little preliminary, you and Claudia could give us the purpose for whatever's included, like the Green Tier Legacy draft. Do you want us to review that and give you feedback, or is that just an FYI? Or
Got it.
are these charts that you're going to refer to, and so they're just for our reference, or do we need to, like the energy report? Is that just sort of FYI, or there's specific things you want us to look at? What kind of detail? Do you know what I'm saying?
Yep, absolutely. Yep,
Okay.
and my apologies for I hope didn't think about that when it all got sent out retroactively. I hope that nobody did try to read through everything.
I tried to memorize it.
Well,
I just
how'd you do? How far did you get?
One page.
Yeah.
You did better than me.
Just say
But yeah,
that
that's especially for the longer documents that would be a good practice to start. So yeah, I'm glad you brought that up.
Mhm.
it's just a counterpoint. I actually kind of like the longer packets because I like to have I keep them on my desktop and I reference my notes and then I'll go back and I'll easily find the reports.
Use all those pages as a pillow when you get tired.
But is the challenge, because I don't know if everyone knows this, but in the PDF document on your computer, there's bookmarks for each of the different sections. So you don't have to page through every single one. And I just don't think that's very well explained to anybody when they start in city business. So that can really help to navigate. But I guess I wouldn't mind having to navigate to the city website, but just I personally actually really like having everything in one packet. But I'm also used to reading 650 page packets for council. So, I'm not as scared by these.
You think shorter would be better for you?
Probably.
Or less.
Also, yeah, I typically don't read every word for those types of detailed reports. I'm just kind of scanning through and.
Yeah.
Actually,
yeah.
this packet didn't take long to download. It's just what
what
are we
to look
supposed
for
to
to
do with
read,
all of
yeah.
it?
Yeah, it was just fairly, yeah. And that's, I wouldn't necessarily, if there's a long document, I don't think we would try to avoid putting it in there for that reason. But I think certainly if there is something that extensive, putting a note in the staff update would be a good idea.
Thank you, Phil.
Yep.
Are we, since we're in this part of the agenda, are we going to put off any more outreach activities considering the Delta surge?
I think that's unfortunately where we're going to be. I mean, we have the fall recycling events coming up. So I think that would be our focus for now. I mean, I think we should start to think about what our next one is, but I think we're probably not going to be sitting outside when we get into the winter months. So I guess I'm open to what people think on that front, but I don't think that getting in.
Well, I think what would make sense right now is, advertising the clean sweep event in October and making sure we're getting that out to the public on neighborhood Facebook pages and our usual, outreach efforts, as well as our November event as well, about our, recycling event as well.
Yeah, I think we could, go through kind of that process that we normally do to market our events. And I think, getting people to those events is kind of, pretty good outreach for us to do, in the interim in their outdoor events. And we haven't had one for a while. So I think focusing in on marketing those is probably the best use of our community outreach time. We haven't really had a community, we were having tree diversity and community outreach meetings, when we were kind of combined and getting ready for that event, but we really haven't had the community outreach meetings were typically ones that happen every 4 to 6 weeks. We really haven't had one of those since the beginning of the pandemic, with just our team, which I think is, for right now, it's kind of the core of Kim and Sharon and myself, with Phil being kind of the staff person that will come to those occasionally when we used to have them more routinely. So, and I think that's also an opportunity for, other people that maybe didn't get, put onto the RCC, if they want to have a role with sustainability, we could, hopefully we get to a point where we start to roll that back to where it once was at some point in 2022, but it's not looking great for the end of 2021. Otherwise, I think we need to also maybe have a little more serious talk about, potentially, trying to do more virtual events, I guess. See if there's some opportunities to, get a good speaker and have a virtual event with that speaker. We may need to look at doing something like that over the winter months. as a potential outreach event.
By the way, there was a big children's thing at I can't remember, I think it was Build for Tomorrow or something at the McKee Park on Sunday. Tri-North organized it and several people sponsored it. I just thought that you'd be interested to know there were no bat houses being built. So if we get out of this pandemic by next summer, it would be nice to do another bat house.
Yeah, I agree. That would be a good one to get back in the mix. That was a really popular event.
Yeah.
It's built in Wisconsin. I think that's the name of the event.
Was it? It was very well attended, by the way. It was very well attended.
Yeah, I think they said there was over 5,000 people that attended, over there, which is wild. So
Yeah,
My sons love those events.
lots of stuff for the kids.
Okay, anything else?
Hey, Ron, just one.
Yeah, go ahead, Rick.
So one thing about the agendas and kind of the packets, one of the things that I've run across, and I mean, it's maybe something that Bill could look into if the commission is interested. But if anybody tracks, I also track the City of Middleton minutes. And Mike Davis, the city administrator for Middleton, I really like how they send out their agendas and so there's actually an email that you can subscribe, just like the Notify Me in Fitchburg. So when you subscribe to the Common Council meetings, he actually writes, puts together, a staff, like a 1-paragraph staff update that actually gets, in the email that gets sent out, it's each of the different agenda items. They have hyperlinks. So you can click on that agenda item for what's in the packet. But then there's like a 1-paragraph staff, summary. And then also, so it gives some background. If there's a lot of background that's needed, then there's a staff memo that's in the packet. But at least it gives kind of just a synopsis of what's up for discussion, and if there's action requested by staff. To me, I find that really easy. I can go to the agenda, and in like 5 minutes, I have a good sense of whether it's a meeting that I want to be interested in attending. And one of the things that even when I was working at Fitchburg, I hated how you can notify me, but at least the way I've done it, then I get an email that just says that there's an agenda out there. I have to go to a website, that directs me to, I have to click again because it's, it automatically points to like 2015 to 2019, whatever, old agendas that aren't any relevant to me. And then I have to go to, search for, it's just so cumbersome, in my opinion, that, that you get, if you want people to actually attend the RCC meetings, that's not the way to do that. If you want to, just say that you're making them public and then, that's one thing. But if you actually want to engage the public in the meetings, I think having something that, like, and again, just a suggestion of, you could look at City of Middleton's agendas, or if you like that idea, you could, ask Phil to look into it. I could provide a sample to Phil, and then if you'd like, and I at least I find that really easy, and then I know exactly what's on the agenda. Within 5 minutes, I can just, if I'm not interested in anything, I just delete the email and move on. And whereas some of the other communities I track, it's kind of, you have to really to spend a lot of time to dig into it, and it's just and it just at some point even I lose interest.
Okay, great. Well, thanks for sharing that. Yeah, I'll look into it. Okay, item 8, any other announcements? The next meeting is tentatively scheduled for Monday, October 11th. So we're switching back to Mondays again.
I just have one thing since we have a second.
Sure.
While we were meeting, I checked back to see the last time we had a Green Tier Legacy update, or the report brought to RCC. I think it stopped when you left, Rick, because I couldn't find anything from 2016 on. So I think isn't that about when you left, 2015? Yeah. So just wanted to tie that loose end.
We're bringing them back.
Yeah, good. I'm glad, because I think it's a good thing for us to see.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you, everyone. And thank you, Phil, for all the work that you've been doing and for tonight. Everything was on your agenda tonight, your menu. So, but thank you for all your hard work.
Yeah, thanks for engaging. Makes it feel like it's worthwhile.
Sure.
And thanks for your suggestions, Rick. Always welcome.
Mhm.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you, Rick. Appreciate
All
your
right,
time.
so we can adjourn the meeting at 8:57.
All right.
Great
you
job,
give me the time.
timekeeper.
Good job, Ron.
Yeah, you can